What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and as I said in the last positional rankings, I was going to do one full recap of how things might have changed from some pro days, more importantly the combine. I was just going to put it in one video because starting next week, I'm going to be doing my 32-team 7-round mock draft, so I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a reference point to kind of my list of players. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the top 10 players at every single position. I'm more so gonna put, I'm gonna kind of run through them. I don't want to jump into their exact combine numbers and all that stuff because then we'll be here for 45 minutes. But I'm gonna pop up a list so you guys can just kind of make a jot note. It might help you guys out too with your personal list. If you really trust my opinion, it might give you the prospects for you guys to do your own mock drafts and stuff like that. So yeah, without further ado, we're gonna jump into the quarterbacks, and my top 10 quarterbacks doesn't really change a whole lot. We'll work our way from down. So at number 10, we have Luke Falk from Washington State, who looked good during the drills during the combine. Riley Ferguson at 9. Kyle Laletto, who had a great Senior Bowl, at 8. Mike White, who also had a great Senior Bowl, at 7. Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State at 6. Lamar Jackson out of Louisville at 5. Josh Allen from Wyoming at 4. Baker Mayfield out of Oklahoma at 3. Sam Darnold, USC at 2. And Josh Rosen, UCLA at 1. Ultimately, I think with these quarterbacks, I think in terms of, you know, guys that could eventually be franchise starters, you probably stop at Lamar Jackson, maybe Mason Rudolph. And for so much the top dog, I'm going with Josh Rosen. Is my #1 quarterback for quite some time. And when you look at the combine, outside of like 1 or 2 throws, he probably did look like the best passer of the bunch. So for me, it's pretty easy to keep Josh Rosen there at the #1 spot. Moving on to the running backs, we're just going to start at 10. There's more than 10 guys that should get drafted and could make impacts as a rookie. But for the sake of a top 10, at number 10, it's going to be Mark Walton from Miami, who did not have a particularly good combine, but still the tape is decent. Number 9 is Naheem Hines from North Carolina State. Great speed. Got to be a nice little scat back. At number 8 is Royce Freeman from Oregon. Number 7 is Kerryon Johnson from Auburn. I think teams might be a little bit afraid of his injury history. Number 6 is Rashad Penny from San Diego State. Had a very, very good combine. Number 5 is Nick Chubb from Georgia as well. Good combine. Number 4 is Ronald Jones from USC. Got hurt at his combine, but the tape doesn't lie. He's probably, after Saquon Barkley, the most explosive runner in this year's draft class in really straight line speed. Number 3 is Sony Michel from Georgia, looking like a pretty complete back. Could be Alvin Kamara 2.0. Number 2 is Darius Geis from LSU, and number 1 is Saquon Barkley out of Penn State. I think Saquon Barkley is the pound-for-pound best player in the draft, and Barkley and Geis, number 1 and number 2, I think both those guys probably will go in the first. Well, obviously Saquon will. I do think Darius Geis will go in the first round as well. His combine pretty much met all expectations of what he was going to test, and he's going to be a good time playmaker at the next level. And kind of outside of the top 10 guys that probably have helped their draft stock, you got Bo Scarborough from Alabama, tested well. John Kelly from Tennessee had good tape. Kalen Ballage, Justin Jackson, also guys that probably could make nice little impacts as a rookie. And Philip Lindsay from Colorado at his pro day ran like low 4.3s. He's a little bit undersized, but I do think he really helped out his draft stock there a little bit. Moving to the wide receivers. For the wide receivers, you know, it seems like there's a lot of people in the league, clearly by some of the outrageous contracts free agency wide receivers are getting, that they don't like the top end talent. But I do think there is lots of depth in between 2nd round and 5th round in terms of wide receivers this year. So trying to rank them is a little tough, but we'll try our best. So at number 10, we have Michael Gallup from Colorado State, who had a much better pro day than the combine. Number 9 is Kiki Kute from Texas A&M. Kind of like the Will Fuller effect. You know, there's just not a whole lot of top-end speed for proven wide receivers in this year's draft class. So a guy that's strictly fast that can catch is going to have a little bit more of a higher draft stock than others. At number 8, we have James Washington from Oklahoma State. At number 7, we have DJ Chark from LSU, dominated at the combine at 6'3", 6'4", and running one of the fastest 40 times, low 4.3s. At number 6, it's kind of a tie, but we just have him at 6, is Anthony Miller from Memphis. Didn't test as well as I would have expected. Tied for that, and put him at number 5, is Deion Kane from Clemson. Just, you know, the tutelage from Clemson. You know, inconsistent tape, but he tested well. He's a good athlete. He'll probably get drafted a little bit higher than a guy like Anthony Miller, who may be viewed purely as a slot guy. At number 4, we have DJ Moore from Maryland at 6 feet tall, kind of busting the myth that he would only be a slot wide receiver at the next level. He probably can be an outside guy. Ran a good 40 time, looked good and crisp in all the drills. Might be my favorite wide receiver of the class. At number 3, we're going Cortland Sutton from SMU. Number 2, Christian Kirk from Texas A&M. At number 1, it is Calvin Ridley from Alabama. So really, you know, there's no home run hitter. For like the top 5, any of those guys could be good. Any of those guys could bust. Calvin Ridley probably would be the most safe pick of the bunch, but I really don't think that, you know, there's going to be as much of a emphasis on drafting a wide receiver early. Because look at last year's wide receivers. Sure, there was injuries, but like it just doesn't look like immediate payoff. Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross, like all these guys, pretty much every big wide receiver drafted over the last couple of years, it feels like, you know, they haven't done much. There's bigger learning curves. So I think teams are going to catch on to this, and they're not going to invest in a major draft pick, like a top 15 draft pick on wide receivers. It could be something that starts to slide down. It was a bona fide prospect. Outside of the top 10, though, there's definitely some guys that I think have helped the draft stock and look very, very interesting. You have Dante Pettis, Antonio Callaway, Equinemius St. Brown. All those guys look pretty good, especially Callaway and St. Brown at the Combine, but didn't make the top 10. Moving to the tight ends. The tight end class here is very interesting. I think it's very top-heavy, and there could be a bunch of playmakers. So we're going to, I guess we'll do 10. We'll go 10 really quick, but we'll talk about more so the top 4. Number 10, I have Jalen Samuels, who's a tight end fullback hybrid. At number 9, we have Chris Herndon from Miami. Number 8, Tyler Conklin from Central Michigan. Number 7, Durham Smythe from Notre Dame. Number 6, Dalton Schultz from Indiana. Number 5, Ian Thomas from Indiana. Dalton Schultz, sorry, was from Stanford. Number 4, we have Hayden Hurst from South Carolina. Didn't test as well in terms of straight line speed, but he looked really, really good in his drills. I think probably will go in the second round. Number 3 is Mark Andrews from Oklahoma. He was originally my number 1 tight end for quite some time, but it's more so the other 2 guys ahead of him kind of impressed me a little bit more. The more I deep dived into their tape, the more they kind of looked out in the combine and stuff like that. So I think really the top 3 is kind of a logjam. All 3 of these guys should be productive, but as of right now, I'm kind of, you know, cooling off a little bit on Mark Andrews and warming up on the other guys. But I think Mark Andrews should be second round pick as well. At number 2, we have Dallas Goedert, who might be number 1 if he didn't have the injury that he picked up at the Senior Bowl and ran an impressive 40 time. Because that's pretty much the only thing I need to see is I need to see what his speed is, get a good gauge from his speed. Because on tape, you know, when you go up against an inferior level of competition, it's like one of those things you don't want to put too much value on a 40-yard dash time, but it's good to have that as a reference point, because when you go up against weaker competition, you can just be a better athlete than the guys you're going up against. How do you stack up with the Mark Andrews, the Hayden Hurst, the Mike Gesicki's of the world? So because of that little bit of unknown, it really is a 1A, 1B, but for the sake of the video and the rankings, he's at number 2. Still a baller, could go first round. And number 1 is the man at the tight end spot that blew away the combine, Mike Gesicki from Penn State. Unbelievable 40 time. I thought he was going to run the 4.8s, ended up running, what was it, 4.5, something like that. Had one of the best vertical jumps, or broad jumps, everything, man. He absolutely blew the doors off the place at the NFL Combine. And when you look at his tape, kind of looks similar to Zach Ertz, except he's a much more athletic Zach Ertz. In some circles, Zach Ertz could be regarded as the 3rd best tight end in football today after, you know, Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. So because of that, he has got his new spot here at number 1. Next up, we get the tackles. The tackle class this year is not really a strong one, but there's definitely, I can go off 10 guys that I think should be, you know, drafted with confidence that at some point they can make an impact for your team, be it as a rotational guy or anything like that. So number 10, we have Joseph Noteboom from TCU, had a good combine. Number 9, Tyrell Crosby from Oregon, good tape. Number 8, Martinez Rankin from Mississippi State. No one really knows where he's going to play in the offensive line yet. Number 7, we have Chukwuma Okorafor from Western Michigan. Did not have a good combine. Number 6, Orlando Brown from Oklahoma. Had a little bit better pro day, but might have one of the worst combines in combine history. So because of that, and even with the decent tape, decent to good tape, he still falls down to number 6. At number 5, we have Brian O'Neill from Pittsburgh. The fact that he was incredibly athletic and showed out at the combine and is one of the pure left tackles in this year's draft class. I had to put him inside my top 5. At number 4, we have Jamarco Jones from Ohio State. I think more so, he's not going to wow you. I think he's kind of like the safe pick. Might not be one of those guys that can eventually develop into an all-pro, but I think you can get a consistent, safe starter. So that's why I have him here at number 4. Number 3, we have Colton Miller from UCLA. Tested very well at the combine. Tape is inconsistent, but I think a team is going to fall in love with the athlete and kind of view him as a project-type player that can eventually go on to be a Pro Bowl caliber with the right kind of training. Number 2, we have Mike McGlinchey from Notre Dame. More so, other guys fell, and his tape kind of held steady. He was my number 3, number 4 guy for a long time. But more so, you know, obviously with Orlando Brown slipping and stuff like that, he's been able to gump up to the number 2 spot. And at number 1, my number 1 tackle since really preseason, Connor Williams from Texas. Good combine, good tape. Should be the first tackle taken in this year's draft class. Probably fringe top 10 pick, but not the greatest tackle class. And guys, outside of the 10 that I mentioned, there's really 3 guys that look. I mean, Will Richardson from NC State, Desmond Harrison, aka the freak athlete that's under 300 pounds, definitely a project. But the fact that he ran a really, really fast 40 and looked pretty good in the drills at West Georgia. Some off the field, he could look pretty nice. So those are your tackles and your honorable mentions. Staying on the offensive line, we're going to look just at the top 5 guards. At number 5, we have Austin Corbett from Nevada. Really, really impressive at the combine. Tape, for what little that I did watch, looks solid. Number 4 is Braden Smith from Auburn. I've been higher on him than most, and really showed off his strength at the combine, putting up a pretty good number. I think it was like 32 or 36, something like that, on the bench press. So we say there's at 4. Number 3 is Isaiah Wynn from Georgia, played guard and tackle, so there is versatility there, but I don't really see how he can play tackle in the NFL, as he is a little bit undersized. Didn't test out at the combine, but the tape is really, really good. Number 2 is Will Hernandez from UTEP. Should, bona fide, he looked like a first-round talent and made himself a bona fide first-round talent after the combine. Should go probably top 20, maybe Seattle. And number 1 is Quentin Nelson from Notre Dame, probably right there after Saquon Barkley for the safest pro-ready prospect in this year's draft class. He's an absolute animal, tested very, very well at the combine, and his tape is absolutely absurd. Finishing out here with the centers, we just have really 3 centers I want to talk about. Number 3 is Frank Ragnow from Arkansas. Could go anywhere between the 2nd and 3rd rounds. Number 2 is Billy Price from Ohio State. Ended up tearing his pec, I believe, on the bench press, but still, I actually like his tape more than the number 1 center, but because of the injury and because he might not be ready, he could get passed over. And number 1 is James Daniels from Iowa. Pretty much a mini Jason Kelsey. Looks incredibly fluid and a very athletic center. Plus, he's from Iowa. They pretty much just breed offensive linemen, so he should be nice in the NFL. So those are your updated offensive rankings. Let me know what you agree or disagree with them in the comment section. Well, I'm actually going to split this up into 2 videos. I'll make a defensive one or something like that tomorrow, because I don't want to have you guys here for 20 minutes. So if you guys agree or disagree with any of my rankings, let me know in the comment section below. If there's anyone that you feel like I didn't mention, because I was pretty much reading off my prospect list that I have here in my little Excel document. That's probably the image I'm going to use for my list, because the thing I was using in the old videos was a pain in the ass. I'll probably just include the whole thing so you guys can see kind of all my rankings, and you can just see who I talked about. If I miss anyone, if there's someone, I'm actually asking you, if there's someone that I didn't even rank in my list that you think is going to be draftable, let me know, because I'm getting ready to work on the 7th round, and the more prospects I have, the more prospects I may need to go dig a little bit deeper in, the better. So, mock draft season is upon us. Draft season is upon us. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, because things are going to get hot and heavy here with your boy C4. So thank you for watching. Until next time, peace out.